I helped sponsor, or I pushed for including this. It really comes down to project labor agreements. And our CARE group and our Measure K has been approved by the OC Tax Commission. And part of that has been, and we've been out in the community saying that this is going to not have a project labor agreement. And I don't have any issue with a union construction company coming in and bidding. I just believe that they can compete equally on equal footing with other construction companies that have the ability to do the work that's required. There is research regarding this, the utility of a project labor agreement or not having a project labor agreement, and the impact of being non-PLA or being PLA. If you have a project labor agreement, the costs are about 15% higher. So what that means is if you have a $300 million bond, that $45 million doesn't go to classrooms, it doesn't go to school buildings, it doesn't go towards meeting the needs of our children and our teachers and our community, but rather goes to by confining the amount of competition towards the construction company itself or the unions themselves. Mrs. Moffitt or Mrs. Singer is correct. It has no teeth. And so ultimately, the reason I push this forward is because I believe board members should stand on whether or not we're going to be honest with the public as they go to the polls, and whether we're going to honor the idea that this is a non-PLA project. And it can be changed after the fact. If you have an election and they don't, either these two board members or whoever is on the board at that time wants to change it, they could. And the concern that I have for that is I believe that this isn't the first piece of investment that's going to be required within our district, but that we're going to have ongoing investment, and which will require us to go back to the taxpayer. And if we go to the taxpayer and we get Measure K passed, and then we do a bait and switch with our community and say, now we're going to change it, and now it can only be a union project, we will never gain the confidence of this community again. I am a conservative Republican, and I've gone out to my community, and it's been to say that this is a needed investment in our schools, that it's an important investment. It's more important than anything that we do up here. There's no second. We have to invest in our schools. When I talk about surplus properties, the reason that I believe that we should sell them is because A, we don't need them, B, we'll never have the money to develop them and utilize them for our school properties because of the needs of our current school properties. If you can't take care of what you have, I don't see how you're going to be able to extend into other land areas and create learning environments there that you can't provide currently for your own students that you currently have. And so my focus has always been about getting as much money into the schools as possible. This is truly a union issue, and as Dr. Singer or Mrs. Singer pointed out, we are in an election season, and so maybe we should disclose how much money we've taken from unions. And so Kathy and Diane, why don't you, and if anybody else, Mr. Ledesma, could you tell us how much money you've taken from the unions into your campaign? And so we can understand, the public can understand where your loyalties lie.
Let's do that. Let's talk about the Shop-Off Group and how close you are to them and how you offered to be their political consultant and their political operative. Let's talk about that they came to your fundraiser on October 1st. So I don't know if you just came for a drink, but it's interesting to me. And we just had a deal.
Wait a minute. You asked me how much money I took from...
That?
No, I would. Absolutely. It's public record, Diane.
You haven't filed yet.
Wait, no. It's public record. Do you have some public record that I've taken money from anyone? But even if I've spoken to any number of developers, and the reason for that is to market our properties. We've now, with the Riverdale, raised over $45 million for our schools that can be invested and that will qualify for funds so that we can actually get more money into our schools. But again, how much money have you taken? This is a strictly a union issue. How much money have you taken from the unions? That's a fair question.
Sure,
You
but I'm
asked
not running
me.
for office. I'm running unopposed.
How much money have you taken, though? You've taken the OUEA. It's public record. This is our teachers union. Has given you $7,000. You don't have an opponent, so they're taking our teachers' hardworking money, and they're giving it to you, and you don't have an opponent. Also, you run a PAC. Is that true?
That's right, I do.
And then, how much money has the union given your PAC?
Well, how about the $48,000 you took in 2010 from developers?
Well, wait a minute.
Isn't
Hold on
that
a minute.
interesting?
No.
$48,000.
You have public record of that? Because there is none.
It's in the paper, and
no,
everybody
no.
knows it.
There's public, official record of every dime I took. I ran for this office 4 years ago. I put in someone gave me $300 out of, she felt sorry for me. Other than that, I put in every dime of my own money into this campaign. I didn't, and that's public record. That's provable public record. If you have something that counters that, then please bring it forward. Because if you do, I'll resign. Because I've not taken anything. I knew that we were going to the surplus properties. I was very careful about how that occurred. But you're still, how much money have you guys taken, and how much has your PAC taken? Because, and there's a reason I'm asking this question, and that's because there's a PAC out there who's putting out money. That OUEA, our teachers union, is funding, and it's Mrs. Singer's, and they put out this Republican alert, and so this is where they're warning people about the liberal Republicans on the board. So this is our teachers union giving money to a Democrat who's now putting out mailers which are warning people about the liberal Republicans on the board. And so they're also putting in here that the flawed Measure K. And so our teachers, this is what's difficult for me, because I'm telling you, I go into some rooms, and as a conservative, walking into a room and advocating for school investment is a difficult thing to do. This afternoon, I was at the Republican Women's Luncheon, speaking with them. And I was there with a community member. Her name's Nicole Jones. And she is from the CARE group. And she had a very difficult time with that group as well. And she's advocating for Measure K. And so we're out here advocating for what's the most important thing to our district, this investment of dollars. It's critically important. And we have our own teachers union, buffeted by our Mrs. Moffitt and Mrs. Singer, putting out to the community that this is somehow flawed. My opponent has actually posted on blogs how Measure K is somehow flawed. And so here, I know we have differences philosophically, but the truth is you're never going to get anything passed if you're not going to reach out to the conservative community. And if all you'll do is attack anyone who steps up to this, if our union, our teachers union, for gosh sakes, is going to attack people through these union money and given to certain board members in a way that undermines conservative support, we could lose this. This is going to be a very difficult bond to pass because we are in a conservative community, and you need conservatives who will step into that community and advocate for the needs of our schools and for the needs of our children and for our teachers and how this investment is important. And so when we sit up here and we just make these outlandish allegations about my ethics. We had 3 board readings regarding our school board policy, and at the final one, something was brought up, and I don't know what it was, but we'd gone through 3 readings, and so at that point we just approved it. And I can tell you, I'm a Christian man. I believe in Almighty God and His Son Jesus Christ, and my ethics will never be informed by board policy. They'll be informed by the way I was raised in my belief structure. And you can argue against things I've supported, or you may not always agree with me, but I don't necessarily believe that makes our disagreement, you or I, evil. We just disagree on things. We've ratcheted this up to a point of, we're all on the take and somehow, we're watering down ethics language, which is absolutely false. We're putting out false information. My opponent is bought, there's slate mail, and it's one of them is called "Continuing the Republican Revolution" or something. And I called because it's a cheap way of kind of getting your name out there to people who are like-minded philosophically. My opponent is a union labor attorney, and she had already purchased it 3 months before. Mm-hmm. And so we're out trying to deceive Republicans into supporting people that don't even remotely philosophically stand for what they are. Again, when I ran for office, I never put out a single negative piece. I've only been positive through this entire process. I've had integrity and focus in terms of trying to better the environments for our students and for our teachers and in service to our community. And I just think we get to a point where it's time to be honest about who we are and what we stand for. And this particular provision, which is toothless and can be changed after the fact, it's just that the public deserves to know that if there are people up here that are going to say that this is going to be a non-PLA agreement, but after the fact it can be changed, I just believe that there's a need for that to be illuminated. And that's all I would comment on.